Okay, so before I start, this is not a review of The Amazing Spider Man 2. I had to put that out there because that would be false advertising. Sort of like what they're doing with the movie, with, people thinking that there was going to be three villains and there were really only two, technically. And then the trailers and everything, they cut a lot of stuff out of this movie. It's sort of like false advertisement because you sort of thought you were going to see that in the movie. And I sort of hate when they do that, when they just cut certain scenes out that you saw in the trailer. You're like, man, I can't wait till they get to that scene. And then all of a sudden, the scene's not in there. There's so much that has been cut from The Amazing Spider Man 2 that they just have to have an extended version of that. They have to. There's like no other way around it. There has to be, like, when the DVD comes out, there has to be the deleted scenes and everything. There's gonna be like there's gonna be like 30, maybe 30 or maybe 20 more minutes of content that they probably cut out because Mary Jane was supposed to be in the movie. I mean, a lot of stuff that was supposed to be in that movie. But so today I'm gonna be talking about the Amazing Spider-Man 2, obviously. I'm not going to do a review for it. I was going to do a review for it the first day that I saw it. I saw it when it first came out. I was like, yeah, I'm not really too good at doing reviews for like full movies because that's like, what, 2 hours of content that I can't really touch a lot on without spoiling the movie. And then you got to sit here and sort of be vague but still get your point across. Yeah, so this is just going to be a dots on, not a review of basically the Amazing Spider-Man, what I liked, what I don't like. So I'm gonna get into what I don't like first because I think that would be I think that would like help my thought process on this one. So what I didn't like, what I really don't like about these films from these first two films, because I've said this before, the Amazing Spider-Man 1, that thing, I didn't really like it. I thought it was a retread of what we've already seen. I think it would have been smarter for them to sort of kind of go off what we've already known about Spider-Man. Just have a already established Spider-Man. Since people love to praise Andrew Garfield as the definitive Spider-Man compared to Tobey Maguire, then let's have him. Then, like, I guess it could have been kind of cool to see a already established Spider-Man with, flashbacks to maybe some of the issues that he had to face in the past. But with the first movie, I had a lot of problems with it. And I have a lot of problems with what they're doing with Oscorp. Like, every single villain comes from Oscorp. Like, is that how it was in the comics? I don't know because I never read the Amazing Spider-Man comics. Do you know what introduced me to Spider-Man at all was the 1990s, the 1990 show. I've said this multiple times. That's the type of Spider-Man that I remember, that I know Spider-Man as. And as I've said in the past, Tobey Maguire and the original Spider-Man trilogy, that was a complete representation of my childhood Spider-Man. But this Spider-Man, all the villains come from Oscorp. Like, Oscorp, yes, Oscorp is a evil corporation. But my God, everything comes from Oscorp. Everything. I wouldn't be surprised if the freaking symbiote's gonna come from Oscorp. Like, the symbiote's supposed to be some type of, like, alien thing, from my understanding of it. And it's gonna come from Oscorp, I'm pretty sure. But in this movie, again, it's a lot of build up, and I think a lot of people expected this. This movie was basically set up for the Sinister Six. That's all it was a setup for the Sinister Six. And so, even the main villain in this movie, even the main two villains, but one of the main villains, Harry Osborn, played by my man, what's his dude name, Dahan something. I'm sorry, I can't even remember this guy's full name, but the guy from Chronicle, he did a great job as Harry, but I do feel like they sort of shoehorned him in this. I think it would have kind of been okay if they would have just kept this movie either focused on, Electro, who was played by Jamie Foxx. He did a decent job at this one, but the whole thing about having this like shrine of Spider-Man, like he's Helga G. Pataki off of Hey Arnold or something. Like he gets obsessed with Spider-Man early on in the movie because he's one of these type of guys that basically doesn't get noticed. He wants to get noticed. You know, he wants people to remember his face. He wants to be something to people. You know, he views himself as a nobody, and Spider-Man tells him that, you know, you're my eyes and ears, and it really makes Max feel appreciated and wanted and accepted. But as soon as he turns into Electro, which I gotta say, the effects for Electro and everything, that was cool. As soon as Jamie Foxx became Electro, he was a lot more likable as his character. But when he was just plain old Max, it was kind of weird. Like, and another thing I've noticed, because he starts hearing voices in his head and everything. I'm like, every Spider-Man villain is freaking psychotic. Every single one. The Green Goblin in the original trilogy, like all the characters, they're hearing voices in their head. Like, we need to let these guys see a psychiatrist or something, because it's kind of weird. But I did like Jamie Foxx as Electro. I think some of that stuff, you know, with the electricity, and you know, Spider-Man trying to combat that, because the electricity is gonna mess with his web shooters. I'm not really spoiling too much, hopefully, but I do think some of that stuff isn't really plausible. Like certain scenes with the electricity, yeah, a lot of people should have been dead. Like the scene where Spider-Man first confronts where he first confronts Max as being Electro for the first time. I did like that scene. That was one of the scenes that I really enjoyed in the movie. There were two scenes that I really liked about this. There were like two scenes that I really enjoyed. Was the final scene, which I don't want to spoil. I don't want to spoil anything for you guys, but if you read the comics, then you know a certain someone is going to perish in this movie, and it's pretty much hinted throughout this movie, and it was like so freaking evident, because in the beginning of the movie, you know, Pete and Gwen, they're graduating from high school, and Gwen is the speaker at the ceremony, and she gives the speech, and so it's pretty much foreshadowing about her imminent demise. Yeah, I kind of spoiled it there, but you know, what can I say? I can't really gloss over it. But yeah, comparing Emma Stone's character Gwen to Mary Jane, I do like the fact that she's not, like, she doesn't like to play the damsel in distress a lot, and I really am interested to see, because again, like I said earlier, Mary Jane was supposed to be in this movie. They actually had Felicia Hardy in this movie. And I was telling my brother, who actually went to go see the movie with me, you know, that's Black Cat. So are they gonna add Black Cat? Because we haven't seen Black Cat on screen yet. So I'm hoping that they'll do that for the third movie. But again, it seems like they're setting up a lot for freaking for the Sinister Six movie, for like future movies. And you know, that's fine and all, but it's like the whole freaking movie is basically there just to get you to point C. It's sort of like, if I had to compare this movie, it's like Iron Man 2. Like Iron Man 2, it was a sequel to the Iron Man, but it was kind of like set up for the Avengers. Well, pretty much a setup for the Avengers. Like, it wasn't like, the story was bogged down by so much stuff that they wanted to put in there so that they can get to point B, to the Avengers, that, hey, it's not a good movie, and a lot of people didn't like it. Like, a lot of people didn't like Iron Man 2. I somewhat enjoyed it, but I knew that it wasn't as good as the first one, because the first one I didn't want to see at first, but as soon as I started watching it, I was like, gotta sit down and watch this thing, because it's kind of looking interesting. But another thing that I kind of hated about this was the whole thing with his parents. Like the beginning of the first movie in Amazing Spider-Man 1, this thing with his parents, I don't like this. maybe it makes sense because maybe this stuff is in the comic books. I don't know. Please tell me if it was in the comic books. All this stuff about his parents. I'm like, I kind of don't give a crap. I really don't. Like, maybe it's me because again, I've grown up with a different version of Spider-Man. And also, the whole thing like in the movie Peter, he ends up uncovering a lot more about his past, well, a lot more about his father and everything and what he was doing. But it was like that could have just stayed in the past. We didn't really need to know about that. I mean, to be honest, it sort of just reconfirmed what we already knew. Like, it told us basically what we already knew. It wasn't really anything too deep of a revelation. I mean, honestly, it's been a little bit of time actually about him trying to uncover that whole mystery, and it's just, I don't know. It could have been taken out of the movie, in my opinion. And also, this whole love thing with Gwen Stacy and Pete. I'm like, oh my gosh. And my brother said this at the when we were driving home. I was like, yeah, this is kind of too much. It's just too much love for me. It's too much romance for me. Like, they could have compressed all that thing. They could have compressed, the issues that they were having, because in the movie, Peter is constantly being haunted by Gwen Stacy's father, who tells him basically, stay away from my daughter because you're gonna end up getting her killed, basically. And so Peter is haunted throughout the whole movie, and there's this whole, are they a couple? Are they gonna stay together? And they're fighting sort of like the whole time. It could have been compressed. That whole thing could have been compressed to maybe a few scenes or something. I mean, it literally took up a big chunk of the movie. I mean, even the first few minutes of the movie. I mean, it just could have been, I don't know. It could have been taken out of the movie. And then the writing, some of the lines, it was just so cheesy, especially the freaking Rhino, who, again, I said there was supposed to be, remember when they were sort of advertising it like it was supposed to be 3 villains? Well, it's only 2. If you can't really count the Rhino because he's there. I guess, well, it's not really a spoiler. I mean, he's at the end of the movie. The trailer shows you basically to the end of the movie. You're gonna go and see the Rhino at the last 5 seconds of the movie where he actually gets into the freaking suit. He wasn't even necessary. He just, and then all of the Rhino's lines are so Saturday morning cartoonish. And this, here's my thing. And this is what I was saying with The Amazing Spider-Man 1 when it first came out. This is what I was thinking. I was like, hey, this is sort of trying to be gritty and grounded in real world, sort of like Batman, because that's what the tone sort of felt, especially that beginning scene again with his parents and them about to leave him and everything in the first movie. All this Saturday morning cartoonish, sort of lighthearted, sort of dialogue and stuff, especially from the Rhino, because he's the worst offender in this movie. It felt out of freaking place. And I want to hear, because I know a lot of you guys, some of you guys might know of this YouTuber, Neo GameSpark. I want to see him defend this thing. I'm calling you out, because this dude completely, he didn't really harp too much on the original trilogy, but he said a lot about, it's, a lot of, a lot of the dialogue is hammy or campy or whatever. There was too much romance going on. Mary Jane was the damsel in distress. Even though I do admit, Gwen Stacy, Emma Stone did a way better job than her, man. Way better job. I don't even like Emma Stone, but this is one movie I can honestly say I'll give her credit.